Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to my YouTube channel, and it is so good to be back here in the studio shooting. So a lot of you guys already noticed from my Facebook and from my Instagram is that 2 days ago was my birthday. And the week, I don't celebrate Christmas really. I don't celebrate Easter or Thanksgiving or anything like that, but I do celebrate my birthday. And what I do is the week leading up to my birthday, I don't do anything official, no kind of work, which included this YouTube channel, but it is definitely great to be back. And I want to send a quick verbal thank you to all you guys who wish me happy birthday on my Facebook and my Instagram. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. So now that I'm back, I wanted to address a question that I get quite often, and it's been one of the main questions I've been getting lately, is what countries did I experience the most culture shock in? Now, when it comes to culture shock, it can be positive and negative, and it can be varying degrees, varying levels, depending on your personal experience. So my experience with culture shock is likely going to be different than your experience with culture shock, just depending on where you're from, what you like to do, what you've already been exposed to. So what I've done is I've created this list based on places that have had the most significant cultural impact on me personally, things that I didn't expect, things that I loved, things that I hated, and at the end, I'm going to give you guys a few little tips on how to combat the negative culture shock that comes along with international travel. The first country I experienced like really huge culture shock was South Africa. Now, I've been to South Africa 3 times in the past, but this most recent trip to South Africa was my longest stint of time in the country. And the biggest thing that really impacted me was the level of xenophobia and the black on black animosity that I saw there. Being an African American growing up in the US, South Africa is romanticized with Nelson Mandela and apartheid and everything. It's presented as this mecca for black people. Like it is overly romanticized, and I didn't understand this until I actually went to South Africa and I interacted with South Africans. I mean, the way like the Zulu tribe treats everybody else, it's similar to how old Southern whites have been treating blacks and Latinos and Asian Americans historically. I mean, racist old Southern whites, not all old Southern whites. And it's interesting to see because in the US we speak a lot about black on black violence, but I don't think a lot of people realize that there's a lot of xenophobia within the black African communities all around Africa and in a lot of different countries. But South Africa really stood out because when you go to South Africa, you see how affluent the country is. If you go to Johannesburg or Cape Town or even Durban, I mean, it's very affluent, and mainly those are the white South Africans, given the history of apartheid, excuse me. But you definitely can see that there's money, there's wealth there, but there below the surface, there's a lot of xenophobia, there's a lack of education, there's extreme poverty in areas, and it's a place that I really want to do a lot more research on and exploration in. I've made some amazing friends. On the positive side, what really shocked me was how high quality the food is. The culinary scene is amazing. The food, I'm talking, I mean, this is fine dining on McDonald's prices in South Africa. It is absolutely amazing food there. Brilliant chefs, I mean, from Johannesburg to Durban, it was just absolutely brilliant food. So yeah, the first one was South Africa. A lot of culture shock for me in South Africa. Okay, the next country I experienced culture shock was India. And India is one of the earlier countries that I visited in my travel career in general. And I've said this a million times, and I've said it here, that India is not a place you go on vacation. It's a place you go to experience. You get the extremes of everything. You see extreme wealth, you see extreme poverty. You can smell the most beautiful fragrances, and you can smell some of the most disgusting odors. It is one of those places that I think everybody should experience if they can. But you will, coming from an American perspective, a westernized perspective, it is a place that's, wow, like just the opulence, that you don't know the income gap until you go to India. Like the level of from here to here, it's so massive and so clear and obvious and prevalent that it can't help but affect you as a traveler. You can't help but notice it, because as soon as you set foot off the plane, you're here. You're already right there. You know, it's a very interesting place. The smells, like in Varanasi, and like some of the traditional ceremonies where they're, you know, openly burning bodies. Like there are people who have never smelled. I had never smelled a burning body before. It's interesting, man. I honestly don't know what else to say about it. India is a tough country, and whenever I go to India, I make sure that I organize my trip very well, because it's a place that can become emotionally overwhelming. Yeah, I think that's what I'm getting at. It's an emotionally overwhelming place for anybody who's conscious of poverty. So this next one was entirely positive for me, actually. It's Malaysia. Man, I love Malaysia. You guys have probably seen my recent trip to KL. I absolutely love Malaysia. It's easily one of my favorite countries in Asia. Maybe sometimes it's in my top 5 countries, depending on the mood I'm in. But the biggest culture shock for me in Malaysia was the diversity and the inclusiveness in places like KL and Penang. I mean, you have Malay, you have Indian, you have Chinese, 3 distinct communities, and I wouldn't say they've really integrated. I say it's very clear who is who and where they are, but everybody gets along, everybody interacts, and this is just from an outsider's perspective. I don't know about the socioeconomic and classism in the country that much, but from what I saw, the communities interact, they mingle, everything is on the up and up, relatively straightforward and nice. I absolutely love Malaysia, and it's one of the few countries that I saw such distinct cultural differences on a country scale, where everybody is getting along, interacting, and living together. You see it a lot in cities. I mean, you'll see it kind of in New York, which I've always thought New York was more segregated than people like to admit. But I do see it in London a lot. You see it a lot in Berlin. But yeah, as a country, Malaysia is a very diverse place. Absolutely beautiful also. Culture shock also, the food caught me off guard. I did not expect I was gonna like Malaysian food as much as I did, but it's kind of understandable because Indian food is my favorite food. Like Indian, Italian, and Thai are my 3 favorite cuisines. So Malay cuisine relies heavily on curries, a lot of curries there, and a huge Indian population, of course. Maybe, you know what, that's also why I love the food in South Africa, because they also have a huge Indian population down there too. So this next one just kind of pissed me off. Is Indonesia. And Indonesia, you know what, I'm gonna step back. Let me step back a bit. I'm gonna say Bali. I'm gonna separate this one from the country. I'm gonna say Bali. And this is why. Because I had never seen anywhere in the world where the expat community treated the people worse than I saw in Bali. The way that these white Californian, Australian, British, fucking fake eat, pray, love yogis are sitting around treating Balinese people like slaves. You can't, I don't see how anybody can go there and see this and not get pissed off by it, especially people of color. Like it is, and I was with a friend of mine who was white, didn't notice it until I pointed it out. And it's like the way they speak to the Balinese people. And here's my issue. If you try that shit with, say, Vietnamese people or Thai people or Hungarian people or Romanian people, you might get punched in the face. But the Balinese people are so damn nice. Like they are some of the nicest people on the planet Earth are the Balinese people. They are, oh my God, like you just want to hug them. Like they're such nice people. They won't defend themselves. Like it's not only that, but it's also a social-economic thing. It's like these Westerners are bringing so much money to these impoverished areas of Indonesia that, you know, who wants to take a risk of pissing them off and then ruining their business? Like it's you know, typical colonialism. it's frustrating to see. So when it comes to culture shock, that was the first time I had ever really seen it. I had seen, shitty expats individualistically, but as a whole in Bali, terrible, absolutely terrible people. Okay, so this next one is Hispaniola, which is basically the Dominican Republic and Haiti. So when I was in the military, we would go to the Dominican Republic quite often. Because we're guys and we like to chase women. It was Dominican Republic. We partied, we chased women, we just interacted. Like, it was just kind of what we did as young soldiers. But as I became older and started to make more Dominican friends and interacting with Dominicans more often, I started to realize how racist they really are, like really racist. And it's interesting because I'm okay, because I'm American, but they are specifically racist against Haitians. Now, there's a deep history between Haiti and the Dominican Republic, but the level of racism is deplorable in Dominican Republic. I mean, I don't want to get into the particulars of it, but the Dominican government has passed racist legislation against Haitian peoples, and globally it was what's the word I'm looking for? It was denounced, I guess you want to say, by a bunch of governments, but ain't nobody done nothing, and they're still treating Haitian people like shit. It is very sad how Dominicans, and I don't want to say all Dominicans, but I will say a lot how they treat the Haitian peoples. And it was interesting when I went to Haiti shortly after the earthquake to do the aid stuff, because I was still in the military, and we were doing a lot of aid drops. They're just chill people. And the Dominicans are chill people too, and the Haitians are chill people. And I'm like, I don't understand. And again, I am not Haitian, I'm not Dominican, I'm just an outsider, going in on holiday, partying. I don't understand how they don't get along. I don't understand how the animosity is still going on today from so long ago. And it was really sad to see, especially for a country that's so close to the U.S., that has so many diplomatic and commercial connections to the United States. So and I was really considering boycotting the Dominican Republic because of this. So I'm still thinking about it too. Oh man, this one, China. If this was like listed in the order of the most to least, China would probably be at the top, at the biggest culture shock. My God, China is such a different place than anywhere I've ever seen. Like, not only, oh man, China, wow. Like, just thinking about it is like, just the thing about China that makes it, I feel like China is totally opposite of the US, of the West in general. Like, the way they look at families, the way they look at capitalism, the way they look at a government's role, the way they look at human rights, the way they look at the environment. I mean, all of these things, and it's compounded when you're there and you see it in action. Like, it was, for me, it was nothing but love. And it was also the first place where I traveled where people were taking pictures with me. Like, if you're black in China, in a lot of parts of China, you're celebrity status right away. As soon as you show up, you're celebrity status. Like, it is really, really interesting. It's really, really fun. It gets old quick, but it is what it is. Also the food, oh my God, I hated the food. And it was in China and it was in Beijing that I learned that American Chinese food is nothing like Chinese food. We have bastardized, oh my God, we've destroyed their cuisine. I think ours is more delicious, by the way. But like, Chinese dim sum is dope though. They get really good dim sum there. And Peking duck, I've only had good Peking duck in 2 places. In China, and at this one place called Shang Palace in Bangkok. That's it. The only place I like Peking duck from. But yeah, China will probably be at the top of the list when it comes to culture shock. Man, the people just... But, and it's like, I don't want to get into... I don't want to piss anybody off too much. But like, there's just a lot of from a Western point of view, there are a lot of hygienic issues. Like there are things that we wouldn't do back home. Is like just bodily fluids and like people spitting everywhere and just it's just from the West. It takes some getting used to. I'm gonna say I can never live in China. Like I guess you get used to it. I've got friends who live there, but not for me. So I decided to tack this last one on because when I was thinking about this list, I had nothing but positive memories. It's Poland. Man, I love Poland. I really love Poland, and it was probably one of, I had a lot of culture shock there because it was so similar but different. So let me explain that. Excuse me. Growing up, we had a neighbor who's Polish immigrant, and I grew up around Polish people eating Polish food. So when I went to Poland for the first time and I knew all the food, everybody was a little bit impressed, you know, especially me being African American. But when I got to Poland, to see the place that I was always being told stories about in real life and how rough it kind of is, it really kind of touched me a bit because Poland was, you know, Poland's at the center of the World War. Excuse me, guys. Woo. Poland's at the center of World War II, and everything that happened. To be able to go to Auschwitz, to really see the marginalization and the attempted destruction of an entire people, it really touches you, and especially as a person of color. When you come from a marginalized community and you see something similar happens to another group, and you can literally walk in the steps of these people. You can go to the destroyed ghettos of Warsaw and actually see what happened. You can go to, like I said, the concentration camps and see what happened, and you can talk to people whose family were killed. Who have direct connections to these atrocities. And you know, for us as African Americans, our history, our direct connection is long. It's very, very long. And for this community, is recent. You know, I mean, it's still very fresh. It's very new. So that really kind of stood out to me. The food, delicious. Absolutely love the food. And the people, and really, and Polish people, I'm gonna blame you guys. I'm addicted to vodka now. Like, it's the only thing I drink. Is Polish vodka to be exact. I'll get some Russian vodka occasionally, but Polish vodka is by far my favorite. Only because they feed it to you like milk. Like, vodka is to Polish people what milk is to Americans. It is everywhere. I remember staying at a hostel. I heard a little ding, 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 and just a magical tray of vodka shots just appeared. Happens all over Poland. So I'm really excited to get back, by the way. Stay tuned. I'll be there really, really soon. So those are the countries that I feel like I've experienced the biggest culture shock and surprise. But now what I want to do is I want to tell you, especially the negative culture shock. And how to deal with it. And the first thing is, and I'm guilty of this, to stop saying things are weird. Words have power, and when you call something weird, you automatically other it, or put it in a negative connotation or light. Things can be different, but because they aren't your culture, because you aren't used to them, doesn't necessarily make them bad. So stop using that vernacular, and maybe you can really embrace these different cultures. The next thing is to kind of get out of your comfort zone, get away from those groups and the crowds. So often people follow I'm going to go on a Euro trip, so I'm going to go to Barcelona, and I'm going to go to London, and I'm going to go to Paris, and I'm going to go to Stockholm, Sweden. Like, I'm going to stop following the crowds. Go to places that most other people don't go. You know, go to Macedonia, go to Cologne, go to Seville. Like, go to places where the local culture has been maintained, where you have an opportunity to really to see what a place is. Because you got to remember, where there's masses of tourists, it's going to everything around that is going to become bastardized and changed to accommodate said tourists. If you go to a lot of places in Paris, you're going to see now in 2017 a lot of menus in English. Once upon a time, everything was French. And you go to some villages and some parts of France, it's going to be in French. So if you don't speak French, you're screwed. So, and on that note, interact with locals and try to learn a little bit of the language of these places. Like, you notice that none of the places that I mentioned, the native language is English. None of them. So at least try to learn a little bit of the local language. At least learn how to say hi or bye or thank you or excuse me, directions and numbers. Like, I should, you know what? I'm gonna make a video or a blog post specifically about learning the basics of a language because it can really help you. And make an effort to interact with locals using stuff like Meetup, couch surfing, staying in hostels. Like, that's where you're gonna find an opportunity to really interact with locals and people who know the cities. All right, guys, so that is my video on the places that I experienced the most culture shock and how to kind of mitigate negative culture shock. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. As usual, please comment below. Let me know what you think, positive or negative. I'm pretty sure I probably pissed some people off with some things I said, as usual, but you guys know I like to hear both negative and positive feedback. Don't forget to subscribe and share, and remember, leave the world better than you found it. I'm glad to be back, and I'm glad to see you guys later.